If your phone rings, answer within 5 rings. The exact amount in euro and cents, and the cash is yours. So the amount again to know is €22,328.59. It is over 18s only. Text cost €2.50, and you are playing across the Go Loud network of stations. Terms and conditions on newstalk.com.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Sky. All the football you love in one place. Across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
This is News Talk.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Now you're welcome along. Well, good old Charles. Look at the Monday he has given us. Pat Nevin, you're very welcome.
Good to be here. Good to be back. I just ran away from the television screen because it's difficult to drag myself away from the football today. It's been mental. It's been absolutely brilliant. I will admit that I've not been enjoying large parts of the last few weeks with Chelsea and Everton, but Everton today, that is actually one of the most astounding games I've seen in years. I mean, we're all up for a bit of hyperbole, but seriously, it almost looked like 5 breaks. 5 goals, but it was extraordinary. I mean, and also by the quality of some of the goals that we're seeing in the last few days has been quite incredible as well. There's a number of reasons for it, I think, but it's a great end. It's a fantastic end to the season.
Well, I'm glad you've seen it because I haven't been able to with everything going on. So for anyone just tuning in, the menu was Fulham against Leicester and Brighton Everton, and now the 8 o'clock kickoff, Nottingham Forest against Southampton. So Leicester, who are just in a dreadful run of form, you can kind of forget Leicester. They drew with Everton last day out, they drew at Leeds, and they beat Wolves 2-1. But before that, they've lost 9 of 10, 1 draw in there. They really are in bad shape overall, but they were away to Fulham. You would think Fulham would be very much feet up on the beach. What a dream first season back. But no, 5-3, Fulham 5, Leicester City 3, a full-time score. And then, as you said, the surprise result for everybody. Brighton, brilliant Brighton, 1, Everton 5 is just not what we saw coming. And then at the moment, Nottingham Forest 3-1 up against Southampton. Second half has just started. I will not bore radio listeners with numbers and games played. It all gets very complicated. Well, the games played is very easy. They've all played the same number. But in effect, where we are now, assuming Nottingham Forest see that one out, Southampton remain rooted to the bottom. They are very much bottom. Everton jumped out of the relegation zone. So Leeds and Leicester still in there. Also still in there because Nottingham Forest jumped not just out of the relegation zone but ahead of Everton. So at the moment it is Southampton, it is Leeds and Leicester both on 30 points, and then you have Everton 2 clear and Nottingham Forest 3 clear of relegation, all with 3 games to go. So like I said, I did not see the football this evening. You said Everton 5 breaks, 5 goals, so it wasn't, domination. They just were clinical when they got the chances.
Absolutely not domination. At one point, it was 76% possession for Brighton, and they had the ball constantly. They must have put in about 40 crosses. They actually weren't playing badly. They were playing really well. It's just really weird. Just one of those strange games. The fighting and the battling that Everton were showing there wasn't absolutely incredible, because when I watched them, we chatted before about Fulham went up to Goodison Park a few weeks ago. I was at the game and there was nothing. There was no spirit, no fight, no battle. But you get the feeling they've got a manager they don't really want to go in and face unless they put everything in, and that's got to be part of it. He's got them so well organised, so structured. But the other thing about it is, you can tell it was a 4-2-3-1 and all sorts of things. Nah, it was a 4, tiny little gap, 5, big breath, 1. Right? Dominic Calvert-Lewin way up there in his own, hardly touching the ball for the vast majorities of it. But take nothing away from Everton's fight and spirit. It was up there with the best you'll see. Brighton fans will tell you, they hit the crossbar twice within a couple of minutes. Pickford had 3 of the best saves you'll see this season. So they could easily have scored 6. Easy. No problem at all. They could easily have scored 6. But it was just one of those extraordinary days. And okay, I admit now and again you're biased when you're watching it, and you can almost feel the bias of, people talking about it, that they kind of wanted Everton because of how much they were putting in. But they were second best as a unit of holding the ball, of attacking. Doesn't matter. As long as you break well, score the goals. And they gave Dwight McNeil man of the match, which may be slightly harsh than Pickford, but Dwight McNeil. And when you do, and if anyone hasn't seen it, the final goal where Everton break away and score the fifth one, it's the real moment. There's nobody on the pitch, but it's Jeff Hurst for England in 66. It's one of them ones. You think, oh, surely not. And he lashes it. I mean, it's very, very, very similar looking, oddly enough. And you're just in a state of absolute shock because you don't actually see it coming at all. But it really, a great game and really exciting for the fact that it had absolutely everything. And Everton would just as likely go out next week and you beat 5-0 themselves.
Well, they know they probably will because they have Man City.
Yeah.
So their running is Man City at Goodison, for what Goodison is worth. They are away to Wolves, and then Everton will finish up once again at Goodison, and they will have Bournemouth. So I would think they're looking at Wolves, Bournemouth, and thinking, 4 points would do us very nicely, very possible.
If they fight and battle and chase the way they did today, yeah, 4 points would be plenty in this league, I think. But I'm going to say I think very quickly because, Leeds didn't do too badly when they were fighting against Man City the other day. Leicester have got quality. They've not shown it all that often, but we were writing off Bournemouth a few weeks. Everyone was writing off Bournemouth a few weeks ago, and they've just went flying. You don't know what can happen. Weird things happen at this time of the season. I mean, just look at the number of goals scored today. So weird things happen, and teams that you didn't think had the fight in the spirit have suddenly got it. But they've also got this weird stuff. I mean, a couple of the goals that Forest have scored tonight, unbelievable quality. I mean, if Man City scored, then you'd be purring over it. In a real fabulous fight, spirit, attitude, and quality on top of it as well. So it's a thing I suspected that quite some time ago. The amount of people that say to me, "Oh, my team are terrible." I don't know if there is a terrible team in the Premier League. There are actually a lot of very good teams, but you've got to turn it on every single game. And if you don't, you'll just get turned over. And it's shown with everyone just now. Southampton are getting absolutely left behind, but in their moment, they can be a really good team. Certainly a good technical team. So it's Southampton are going down. If they can't get this back tonight, which I don't think they will, they're going down. So it's to get a bit biblical, and then there were 4. Yeah. So there's 2 from the 4 left.
Well, as we speak, Southampton have just scored a goal. So that kind of a season.
If that I put in there. Did you notice that big if? Because I'm taking out for granted at the moment.
It's funny where you talk about it, there's not like a bad team in there. Back in the day, there was like Sunderland and 24 points, and there were some bad teams. Just the general standard seems to be through the roof. Like I was watching the Brighton-Manchester United game on Thursday, and I was out with some friends, and so we were watching on it was on mute, but there was a chance in the game where a Brighton player left-hand side cut into what we might call, edge of the area, the Thierry Henry position, and was going for that far corner and just didn't start the ball wide enough, and it was a relatively comfortable save for De Gea. And there was like general disdain around the table. And I did find myself saying, like 10 years ago, that would have been a wonder goal. And now we're all like sitting here going, oh, geez, come on, just finish that chance. Like that finish, for instance, at this level now is just a routine. Well, you really should score. If you're 20 yards out and you've got that angle, it's in your favour, you should score. And that applies to a whole raft of aspects of football now, which does really seem to have gone to another level in the Premier League.
It has. And the thing that shocks me a wee bit, and I think it's got to do with the quality of Premier League. Tomorrow morning I'm off to Milan for the Milan derby for the Champions League semi-final. And I'm absolutely staggered that there's 2 Italian teams in the Champions League semi-final. And by the way, Napoli get close as well. Because in terms of pure quality, I have no doubt that the Premier League is miles ahead of Serie A. And I think a lot of it's got to do with every single game has to be 100%. You have to give everything. You have to be up for it, and there are quality players at so many teams. I mean, I watched a team like Crystal Palace who are a bit meh, but then you look at somebody like Elise and Eze and Zaha, they are absolutely phenomenal players that on their day that can do fantastic things. So everywhere you look, and in the end, what really shows is not the lack of quality a lot of the time. Certainly just now, is if you're not fighting. And if you're not fighting and battling and putting the effort and the work in, you get done. And that brings us back to Everton, who are just unrecognisable. They absolutely destroyed themselves in that game today to put everything off the line. I mean, I'll watch the highlights later again just to see, purely to see how you're going to fit that all in, because the chances that Brighton had to try and give the absolute narrative of it, and I keep on saying, Brighton created a lot of very good chances, and on another day, easily 4 or 5 goals themselves, So everywhere you look, it's that, and that's why they're turning to people like Allardyce now. You're turning to people like Dyche now. They all know there's quality there, but have they got the spirit all the time? A wee bit of structure and organisation. They need to add that on top of what's already there, and maybe that's why Dyche got what he got today. Because when they did break, the way we were breaking Everton was actually fantastic, and just players that you never thought had it to that level, like Dwight McNeil was brilliant, and certainly Dominic Calvert-Lewin. What a difference when you have him in the team and he's nearly fit to play an entire game.
In your experience down the years, is there any quick way for a new manager to somehow instill fight in inherited dressing room?
Do you know what was really interesting what Dyche said? I don't know if you remember just when he came in. And he said, I mean, of course, we all think of Sean Dyche and the voice and, the kind of gruff, simplistic outlooks. Yeah, I think not. He went in and he said, the first thing I did was listen. Got them all in, one by one, and listened to them. So that he then finds out what the problem is. If there are certain underlying problems, it's the easiest thing to come in and shout and tell them what to do and be threatening or whatever. But in actual fact, he said, well, I'll go in and listen and see what they have and who's got the attitudes I need. And if there's anything that I can fix with their help, I'll fix that. Because in a moment like this, right down the bottom, the teams that have got away from it. Roy Hodgson's come in. And it's quite clear to me, I think, what Roy Hodgson's done. I honestly think it's dead easy, because you sit and watch Palace when he's come in and he said, yeah, just go and have a go. Take chances. Oh, you guys are good in the ball. You'll lose it a lot of time. Just go. Don't play the percentages. Just go. Show what you can do. And they flourished. Those players flourished, and that's why they got out of it. So you see what you're good at, what you've got, and also what the players think the weaknesses and strengths are. And I think good management is telling, but it's also listening as well.
Interesting. To the weekend that was, so we will come back to Chelsea. 3 Bournemouth one an away win for Chelsea, which, let's be honest, is a pity, because it was absolutely hilarious what was happening to Chelsea. Pat, you may well disagree, but en masse, it was bloody brilliant, and we were all enjoying it, and I was hoping relegation fight would ensue. Man City 2-1 winners against Leeds. Erling Haaland, make sure you take the penalty next time. Spurs got a win against Palace. Mo Salah did his thing at Anfield for the 100th time. Liverpool 1-0 winners against Brentford. Yesterday we had Newcastle 0, Arsenal 2, followed by West Ham 1, Manchester United 0. The curious case of David De Gea. What a weird goalkeeper. Will win matches single-handedly and is just as liable to lose a game, and does both with a fair degree of frequency.
Yeah, I always think about it with goalkeepers anyway. You just notice the mistakes everyone they make, because they lead to goals. I mean, everybody else makes just as many mistakes. But Adam, you know that he's capable of doing that. From absolutely nowhere. I still feel as if he's not worth dropping. He's doing enough good things often enough, but there might be a question mark at the start of next season. They're looking themselves. They know the quality they've got even on loan, but they know the quality they need at that back line. And if you look at the very, very best teams, when they are at their best, they know they can rely on their goalkeeper to get them out of a hole now and again. You don't need your goalkeeper digging a hole for you. And on that occasion, And I suppose I'm a wee bit. I watch the same with Kepa, you know. And the amount of people that tell me the same about him. Oh, he throws them in. He's terrible. And I think, well, I'm looking at it every week, and he's not doing it that much, and he's making a lot of saves. But there's this narrative around them because you kind of notice them because they're big name goalkeepers. I still think there's no real worry or real concern about him. I think they should be more concerned about centre backs, or one of those centre backs anyway. They need a wee bit more strength and depth there. I think that's where the bigger concern should be.
Because I did see, even on Match of the Day, the general sense was, yeah, look, realistically, I think it was Danny Murphy, Jermaine Defoe, if Manchester United ever want to challenge for a league again, they're just going to have to get a new goalkeeper, and that's just the way it is. Like even against Sevilla with his that pass to Harry Maguire was very ill-judged. I don't know, I'm torn because like as you said, we all remember the bad stuff. It sticks in the mind, but I do feel he has more bad stuff than your average keeper.
It's whether it's the bad stuff what it leads to. I mean, I can remember certainly both Man City and Liverpool have got great keepers who have made howlers, particularly passing out from the back this season. That happens. They give away goals. They cost goals. And De Gea's done it as well, once or twice this season. And I just think that in the past, I mean, the goal at the weekend, there wasn't that. That was just a soft hand, and he knew himself with his reaction. You could tell with his reaction that he knew it was his error. He should have got to that. What happened, I don't know if you looked at it closely. Lots of people did. I didn't see it in highlights. I seen it silently. And he slipped. Basically, his foot slipped, and that's why his hand. You're watching his hand, and you're watching. In actual fact, he was going backwards, and he hadn't got himself set. The keepers always tell you about getting yourself set. So there's reasons, excuses, but it doesn't matter. You let in a goal that you should have saved. But I still don't think there's enough of them to panic about him. And what do you want as a keeper? How many do you want a keeper who never ever lets a goal in that's even visible? And I go through periods with these keepers. I mean, again, Kepa. Any goal they scored against Chelsea, people go, the keeper was terrible. Absolutely terrible. And you're thinking, no, he wasn't. You can't save them. The guy's 2 yards out for you. So I think there's worse than him around.
Fair enough. 2 defeats in a row, by the way. I mentioned the Brighton game on Thursday. They are doing their level best to really take the sheen off their season now. They're only a point ahead of Liverpool, a game in hand, admittedly, but they're just kind of withering down to not much now. It's hardly finishing strongly. Where is Ten Hag at the moment?
No, he's okay because he needs to get to the end of the season. When he gets to the end of the season, and that was the question. He said that last week, didn't he? We talked about he doesn't know what he's got to spend. Well, they've got to let him know that. They've got to give him an idea.
He doesn't even know who they are just yet.
Pardon?
He doesn't even know who they are just yet.
Exactly.
Whether it's
So
which owner.
They must have an opportunity to build what he wants because it isn't really his team yet. Nowhere near his team yet. So I think he's fine. He's cool.
I don't even mean under pressure. I should have been more specific in the question. Just there was such a great sense of progress for so long under him, and they still have an FA Cup final to come, admittedly, but it really just does feel to have withered on the vine.
It almost feels like it's just Rashford. Remember when they were on that brilliant run, and Rashford was in a brilliant run, and when he's in that, less so. It's not just one player. It never is just one player. But I don't think they're a team that look even close to considering a challenge for winning the league next season. No. I think they're miles away from that. I mean, they're not get anywhere near the quality. Even just simple things like the wingers. I mean, they're okay. They're okay. I've got a bit of a problem. They just do the same thing all the time. And you got to do something a lot bit more than that. You have a look at what the Manchester City wide players are doing. That's a bit special. So really, they're a wee bit too dependent in one or two areas. So they're a long way away from. And even I think what you're going towards here is, have they got a style? Have they got a USP, a unique selling point that Arsenal have got, that Manchester City have got, that to some degree Newcastle are beginning to build? I don't think they've got that yet. Liverpool have got that. You know what theirs is. But have Manchester United got that yet? No, I don't think they have. I think that's where you get to and say, but where is Ten Hag? Well, he's not really had time to build that yet because he's not had a whole season yet, and he's not had time to go and put his players or enough of his players into it. When he does that next season, we'll find out. But the problem could be the Glazers again. Because if the Glazers don't get themselves sorted and they're too busy trying to get an extra $500 million, he says, waving $500 million away. If they do that and they waste the chance of another pre-season, that's a nightmare for Manchester United because they've got a long way to go, but they've got a manager who might be good enough.
Do you watch Succession? No spoilers, by the way.
I wish I had time. I've not got time. I'm always travelling all the time.
I've learned from that show, Pat, they don't say billion, they say bill. $500 million is what the Glazers are holding out for. That's what they talk about.
We don't say that in the East End of Glasgow.
No, I suspect not.
I don't get many chances to say it. My biggest claim to fame was I was flying down to London this weekend, not for a game, for something else, and Scotland's First Minister was on it, and that's the closest I got to kind of real power. Nothing more. Apparently there was some big event on in London at the weekend.
Apparently.
Yeah, I didn't go to that. I went to something else.
As a brief diversion, we'll come back to a couple of Premier League talking points, but you mentioned Glasgow. Ange Postecoglou, 2 in a row, Celtic champions. That's 11 in 12 years. He really does seem to have done an exceptionally good job. When is he going to look at the Premier League and say now is the time, I wonder?
I do think there have been 1 or 2 nibbles at him already, and that won't surprise anyone. And it's a real strange one. I think it's a difficult position. Remember, Brendan Rodgers said the same thing, doing a great job at Celtic. It was all going very well. But when do you decide, okay, I could keep this going, for another 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but your star will fall at some point or fade at some point, and it only stays open that door only stays open for a certain period of time. And at the moment, when you look at some of the likes of De Zerbi's and all that coming in, you think, would Ange Postecoglou be less than that? I don't think so. So I think Premier League clubs must be considering him. I heard his name mentioned once with Chelsea, but not seriously. If it was me that was making a decision and I was a Premier League chief exec, I'd be all over him.
Yeah,
I'd be looking for him right now. Good news for Celtic fans, I'm not, so you don't have to worry. And they're a bit slow because they expect him to go and take a lower job. But you could be the best manager in the world and still have a stinker at the lower reaches of the Premier League, just because it's a tough league. So I think Ange at the moment, I don't think there's a clear team that looks like, if Chelsea had come from or Spurs had come from, then yeah, maybe. Other than that, beyond that, I don't think he should bother. I think he should be quite happy to stay where he is, because it could happen. You could come down, and what this league's like, the amount of changes there are in Premier League, he could do him out of a job in 6 months.
It's true. He's got a good thing going. He has such an obvious, and it was apparent from his first week in the job at Celtic, he has such an obvious presence, and he speaks in such an engaging way. He has huge likability. So all of that is very apparent to all of us. What's he done on the pitch with Celtic that's impressed you the most?
The way that some of us who follow Celtic all through our young lives would not understand the phrase "the Celtic way." And the Celtic way is score an early goal and press on regardless. And you attack, and you keep on attacking, and you play in the front foot, and you win. But you not only win, you win stylishly, and you win with skill, and you keep on trying to win. If you're 3 up, you go for 4, you go for 5. It's a sort of thing that is almost seen as naive, but it ain't naive with Celtic, and he's got that. That's why the supporters love him as much as any manager I can remember in recent memory. And I mean, they've had big names that have been really successful. The one thing, if he had to say, he's done above everything else, and this isn't going to help him if he wants to move south, he's used the Japanese market brilliantly.
Yeah,
the Japanese market is amazingly good because it's higher quality at their top end in the Scottish market. So if you take, it's a dead simple thing, top of the Japanese market, move it over to the Scottish market, it's better, it will succeed. Take the top of the Japanese market and put it in the English Premier League, that's not going to happen quite to the same level. Yes, Mitoma, yes, possibly Kyogo, but you're not going to be able to do it with a job lot the way that he's done it at Celtic and have the same effect. So you'd have to do something more he has done other things. Most of his decisions, not just the Japanese players, have been good ones. But it is a step up again. And I will roll back in the slight one, and I will underline to any Celtic fans listening, I think Kyogo would score plenty of goals in the Premier League. I don't think that'd be a problem. Playing with the right team, he's fine. He'd score. He'd be easily 20 goals with a good team.
Yeah. That's all very interesting, because I did wonder about that, to call it a party trick is disparaging, but that ability, that knowledge of being ahead of the curve when it comes to the Japanese market, perfectly placed for Scottish football. Could you translate that to the Premier League? Not quite. Almost parallel to Wenger being ahead of the curve for a couple of years in the transfer market, and then the rest caught up, and it gets tricky then. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's a tough one. But on top of all that, that's not all he's done. He's got brilliant spirit. He's improved certain players who actually now look better players. Okay. But some of the players up there who do look fantastic, I'd be intrigued to see how well they would do in England, like Jota. Lovely play to watch. I just don't know how well they'd do in England. So that's open to question. But if I was an executive at a top club, and it's all the usual suspects all the time, and it is all the usual suspects, isn't it? Apart from like De Zerbi who's come in, I would certainly be looking at him very, very seriously.
Okay, we'll take a short break. Loads more to chat to Pat Nevin about. Football on Off the Ball is brought to you by Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. 20 minutes to go between Nottingham Forest and Southampton. 3-2 to Forest is where we are.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner and supporter of the Republic of Ireland women's national football team.
This is News Talk. Lunchtime Live.
Janice says it's as simple as the issue around contraception is something that actually can work, and nature bridges, that's all we need.
Andrea, I never heard such nonsense in all my life. At the moment there's 55,000 deer culled annually, and that number isn't enough. How would you get contraception into that amount of deer? It's absolutely ludicrous what he's talking about.
Lunchtime Live with Andrea Gilligan. Weekdays at midday on News Talk. Conversation that counts.
For over 25 years, Timber Living has been building Ireland's premier residential log cabins. Stylish, cosy, low maintenance and built to last. Timber Living cabins feature double wall construction and high-grade windows and insulation. They're affordable too, with a cabin to suit every budget. Perfect for year-round living. Timber Living log cabins are also ideal as a garden office, granny flat or holiday home. Take a 3D walk through our cabin range at timberliving.ie or drop into our show cabins in Carlow, Cork and Roscommon. Timber Living, Ireland's favourite log cabins.
Hi, I'm Louise Cooney and I want to tell you all about my podcast, Open Book, which is back for season 2. We've got a great cast of friends, well-known personalities and authors lined up for this season who'll be sharing the life lessons that help guide them on their path and explaining what success really means to them, as well as giving us some tips for creating your dream life and setting those all-important boundaries. Listen first to the new episodes of Open Book each Wednesday on the Go Loud app or wherever you get your podcast.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, all the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
This is News Talk.
Now you're welcome back. So, latest in the Premier League, Nottingham Forest 3-2 up against Southampton. Just under 20 minutes to go at the City Ground in that game. That result, if it stays as it is, would lift Nottingham Forest out of the relegation zone comfortably. They'd be ahead of Everton as well, so they'd be into 16th, and indeed they've just gone 4-2 up, so you would think that's a banker at this stage with 19 minutes to go. So Nottingham Forest on course to jump from the relegation zone from the bottom 2 to 16th, Everton in 17th, and then your bottom 3 as things stand. Leicester, after a very poor result this evening, conceding 5 against Fulham. Leeds United are second from bottom, both on 30 points, and then Southampton could adrift on 24. We can go back to Mr. Pat Nevin. Hello.
Hi there.
You're back with us.
Technical problems my end, I'm afraid.
All right, not to worry. Not to worry. So, Big Sam, I mean, it's hard to believe it's 2023 and Big Sam is back in the Premier League. We'll get 3 million, no less, for keeping Leeds out of the drop zone. Poor old Sammy Lee, not released from jury duty. I mean, it just has all the ingredients of, a podcast series coming to you very soon. So, he gave it the big one. Pep, Klopp, I've got the same football knowledge as them. I'm at that level. I think he was both trying to take pressure off his players and let them know that, daddy's here, it's all going to be fine. And, I also think he bloody means it too.
I think he does. I think he always has. Back to that old Alardici quote that he had all those years ago. The thing is, having spent time with him in his early days back at Bolton and talked to him, he's better than you think. He's loads better than people think. People do think he's a one-trick pony. He does use a very similar method a lot of the time, but he has got other tricks up his sleeve that he uses. He won't be able to use many of them this time because he hasn't got a lot of time. He hasn't got the opportunity to go and make these changes that he would like to make. But he's not daft. He's not the person people have built him up to be over the years as a dinosaur. He's not often had teams that have had more quality players than his opposition. He's almost always had teams that have had less quality than his oppositions. So he's had to find another way. And I think he's always wanted. And every manager does want those opportunities to go and really have a dig with the best players. But he's not had it. He's not got it just now. So he'll use all these other tricks. And he's good. He's actually very, very good. And it's one of those ones where that phrase, you underestimate him at your peril. Well, lots of people have over the years. And that's why he had a deal of success for what he had for a decent amount of time. So it's weird. It is a throw of the dice. We all know it's a throw of the dice. But if it works and he gets the 3 million, we know that's not important because you look at what they make. They make multiples of that, many multiples of that 3 million if he keeps them up. So it's not a bad gamble, is it? It's a decent gamble.
No, I guess not. I mean, it does, though, just show the level of desperation / panic, and also like monkey see, monkey do, that is in existence even at this level. It's like, oh, hang on, Palace brought back the old experienced hand of Hodgson and that's worked, and Sean Dyche, that Everton thing, so even though we've had a team built by Marcelo Bielsa to suit his style of football, they veer from that all the way to Sam. And another thought I had is that, like, you listen to Sam, he was absolutely delirious that the phone rang. He did not expect it. He could not have jumped at the job more quickly. I mean, if you'd offered him a $500,000 bonus, he would have taken it. So would they go and give him 3? I mean, he had no leverage. Everything about it was just like, this crowd, this is not impressive.
Football folk, honestly, at the moment, they're in a bizarre world. But their worlds don't actually equate to ours. It's like, oh, I'll go somewhere else and I'll spend a tenner instead of $5. That's the way it feels like them when they're talking millions. And it does with them. I do remember a few years ago now explaining to somebody how I could make them £20 million very easily. And I explained and they went, yeah, you could. Aye, we don't need it. I was like, honestly, what planet are these people on? But the planet they're on is a different one from us. They don't think about it in the same ways. And I suppose you have to understand that they don't think about those figures in the same ways. For them, staying in the Premier League by hook or by crook, don't actually care how they do it. But they're trying to make an argument, any sort of argument, that a team that played Bielsa ball should now play Sam style. I'm afraid I'm struggling. I'm like you. I can't see it. But hey, if it somehow it works. Footballers are adaptable and usable, and if you go and slot the bits in different places, it might work. Like tonight, watching Doucouré play. Doucouré I don't think he played under Frank Lampard, yet he looked among the best players there in that team because the new managers come in, got inside his head, and got the best out of him. So that's exactly what they're wanting Sam to do over at Leeds. They want him to go there, and they want him to... Did we not do this the other week? We were talking about Dyche, and I said Sam by mistake.
You did.
I did, didn't I? And then suddenly he's on the back. I hadn't even thought of him. Well, somewhere internally it was there. but they will do anything. They've tried anything, and it's a bit like you're watching Chelsea, and it's the Frank Lampard thing. To be honest, in a purely football sense, it did not make any sense at all, did it? Bringing Frank Lampard into Chelsea, other than the fact he's a Chelsea legend. It made no sense other than that, but they still done it. So, you're not getting a massive amount of sense. You're getting panic, and I think we all understand it. There is a lot of panic there.
And it's a huge part of the attraction for us looking on, scoffing at the whole situation. So Leeds, their running isn't dreadful. They have Newcastle 12:30 game on the Saturday coming. They're away to West Ham the following Sunday. And then you would think last day of the season, they'll have a fairly nonplussed Spurs bunch turning up at a very fiery Elland Road. So Big Sam may well do it. It's very striking when you watch any team under new manager. So Leeds against Man City at the weekend. There's lots of, very self-conscious pointing and, I'm there. And they were like trying to be in the shape, which they'd obviously been rehearsing for those previous 48 hours. But then it's up against the reality of Man City. And so they're kind of, it's a bit of a high wire act. What struck me, and you can explain the tactics, I suppose, is that so he went with this 4-2-3-1, and what seemed to happen routinely, and it was very much the plan, is anytime the ball went wide to City's either fullbacks or wingers, is those two midfielders in front of the back four, they would fold into the back four, and the fullbacks would go out to press the ball. So it was like a back six in effect, and you kind of think, well, okay, I can see that. That's a very logical pattern. It just seems like the three players in front of them forgot that Man City players were going to pull the ball back to the edge of the area and boom, 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 goals.
Yes, and that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that happens. But then I looked at, I remember thinking back, was it, my mind's getting, the cogs are moving. I remember Mourinho did that against Barcelona for Real Madrid. I think it was the Champions League semi-final, first leg. And he did that. And you thought, oh my God, you're right. And one of the players he was asking to do that ugly stuff was Cristiano Ronaldo. And you're thinking, really? And it kind of, up until I think it was the last minute, they ended up getting a man sent off. It was unfair. It was a bit of a scam. But as a piece of technical work, it made absolute sense. So it's in there. It's in the books to do exactly that move, right? I've watched Mourinho do it all those years ago. So it's in there. And that's why some of these managers, you do think of them, you think, oh, how much are you really doing differently here? But they know every one of those methods. They've looked at them, they've considered them. And tonight was, again, I know it's come back to tonight's game with Everton. Everton were a classic one of, go wide, hit it in. It's okay, there's loads of us in here. And we're all quite big, and we're better at header on the ball. That's not complicated stuff, but it looks really, you go and do it with week in a kind of, use the technology and you move them back and you put little blocks in and all that. Yeah, move them wide, put it in the middle, there's loads of us in there and we'll all attack it. Right? So sometimes it's not more complicated than that. And it can work, because if anybody will tell you that at any level, see if you put 6 defenders in a box and you cross balls in there all day, just see how many you score. Just see how many you score. Honestly, it's really, really hard to score, because they're facing it all the time. As long as they're set and facing it and they're not turning their backs, because the idea is to get to the byline, they're turned and then they're knackered. But if you put them out wide and then, go on, cross it. Yeah. It's unbelievably hard to score.
Laws of physics apply. So I dare say if City get a penalty tomorrow, Erling Haaland will take it. I was interested to read Wayne Rooney in the Sunday Times in his piece yesterday. He kind of had the gumption to say what I think deep down. He said his opening line was, Man City won't just beat Real Madrid, they'll give them a good hiding. Like they're going to whack them, was his general sense.
Yeah, it's a bit much. I mean, having watched the two games and being at the two games, the Real Madrid-Chelsea games, they're very good and technically good and very good in midfield, fabulous in midfield, and they've got enough players to be very dangerous, and they're only given the stuff about one competition. So don't judge them by anything they're doing in La Liga just now, right? But player for player, both teams playing really well. Man City win. I wouldn't even hesitate for a second. Man City win. But it doesn't work like that all the time. I've watched it often enough with Real Madrid. There isn't a team better in the world in that competition. and knowing how to do that competition and knowing how to work that competition. And they've got a brilliant manager who knows how to get the best out of them as well. And you've got people like Benzema who'll be saving himself for this tie, absolutely for this tie, as will one or two others. So Modric, I've watched him some games, and you think, again, you might be getting too old now. And then you watch him completely and utterly control the next game because he knows when to turn up. And that's the thing about Real Madrid and the players and the manager. They know when to turn up. So both teams play well. The best, City win. But who's to say that's going to happen? City will be far more tired than Real after what Real have done this season. Far more tired, especially at the pace of La Liga in comparison to and of course, Man City can't relax in any games either. So there's a huge amount on Manchester City. And the one thing that might do them is that exhaustion.
Yeah, I can't wait for it, I have to say. It's going to be a great occasion.
Thanks very much for winding me up there, seeing as I'm going to the boring other one, Inter versus AC.
Oh, is that right? It's funny, you should read Jonathan Liu in The Independent, a great piece about the rivalry, and he was over in Milan and, explains how it's not a geographical rivalry or even like a familial one. You'll get brothers and sisters supporting opposite teams, and it's a very friendly rivalry. But he was talking to an employee who wanted, as you'll understand because of the quote, to remain anonymous, who basically said, we have no chance. Our only hope of Inter not winning the Champions League is Pep. So there was a real sense there that Inter are going to win that game. It's a great piece, though. You should check it out on The Independent.
Yeah, I have to say I would be even stronger in Inter being the favourites than I am with Man City being the favourites. I mean, Inter are a fabulous team now. The depth they've got as well is miles ahead. AC Milan have got a goodish 1-11, and I think they've done brilliantly to get as far as they've got. But it's a massive win for them to get beyond Inter in this one.
Yeah. Well, listen, there are problems in life and then there are high-class problems. And fair enough, you'll have to watch Madrid City on the TV and then go to the San Siro. But, you just hang in there and get through it, Pat, OK?
I will. It's really tough. It's really hard.
But so Arsenal are going to keep City honest, which is great. I think it would be such a pity if their season unravelled. They went to St James's Park, which is just a ferociously difficult place to go increasingly, and they won. As a man who likes a dribbler, Alexander Isak caught the eye with that assist at Goodison in a big way. Now, I appreciate he should have been kicked out over the touchline several times over, but nonetheless, akin to our conversation about standards in the league earlier, I mean, 20 years ago, some of these dribbles would have blown our mind. It would have been like JJ Okocha type, artistry. But it is a bit special. I know you like a dribble, obviously, for obvious reasons. And he's kind of got an original enough technique.
Yeah, I studied them. I really studied them. As you know, Mitoma's got stuff that nobody else does, which is I love to bits. But there's plenty of, I already mentioned Eze, Elise, really, really special. Keep an eye on Noni Madueke. He's surprised me. It's mostly power at the moment, but he's only a kid. He might be very good, the new Chelsea lad. But yeah, looking at Isak, he could be the most brilliant winger, that you see, apart from the boy on the left at Real Madrid, who's no bad. But he could be among the best in the business just now. But he's not just a dribbler. That's the problem. He's everything else as well. I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, I don't know where you come. Are you a centre forward? You look as if you're easy good enough to be a Premier League centre forward. Stick you out wide, stick you in a 10, stick you anywhere in that pitch, and you're in unbelievable danger wherever you are because you've got vision to spare. The touch is absolutely incredible. And then he goes and sticks in the dribbling skills on top of that. He is an astonishing. I think it was 60 million. I think he cost something like that. Bargain already. I do think you look at all the players that are being bought just now. I think his time is his career. Where he is just now, the thought that he will actually get quite a lot better.
Yeah,
I do honestly think. Yeah, the dribbling's brilliant, and of course that's my favourite part. But I can't ignore the fact he's got everything else as well.
Yeah, just 70 million euro, but the point stands, I'm sure. And then before clock comes against us, it does now look as if Chelsea are safe.
Yeah, I thought they were anyway. I thought they were. I'm going for 34 points being enough this season, and Chelsea were on 39. I thought that's way beyond teams get to. I thought they were safe. But I understood why there was a lot of laughing and sniggering up people's sleeves, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's absolutely perfect.
I just want to say I wasn't laughing up my sleeve. Like, I was belly laughing very vociferously, like, to the world. I did think it was everything and more Todd Bowley deserved.
Yeah. Do you know, did I tell you this last week? I'm sorry anyone listening if I told you the same thing. So this next book that I've coming out, and it's out in 3 weeks' time, right? And there's an entire chapter on why chairman and owners should never go in the dressing room, right?
Only one chapter?
No, because there's other chapters about all the mistakes that new owners who know nothing about football make when they come into football.
Okay.
And I've written this like 2 years. Like, it was basically the first draft I finished 2 years ago, but I had to wait because there was another one out before that. So it's coming out in June. People will think it's an allegory. Yeah. People honestly, they'll think, you're just talking about Chelsea there, aren't you? And I'm going, no, actually, that was what I was living through at the time with this guy at Motherwell. But it is extraordinary how many of those things are really, really similar. That, you know, people from outside it do actually think they can know the business like that. And football's not easy to run and organise and structure. It's really quite hard. It's complicated.
And I wanted to ask, sorry to cut across you just before the clock does come against us. I had pretty much thought that this 8-9 week period would have no bearing whatsoever on Frank Lampard's reputation. He'd bundle along, win a few games, lose one or two, and still be in the same predicament. But it will have really damaged his reputation, fairly or otherwise.
Yes, it will. I don't think you can argue that. I don't think there's anyone, even within Chelsea fans who still love him to bits, they don't look at him the same way. I mean, after his first period in management with Chelsea, you know, he left and some wanted him to stay, some didn't, you know, but, you know, there was a feeling that it was okay. Most Chelsea fans don't think that anymore. As a manager, they don't think that. Now, if Chelsea fans think that way, then everybody out with the games looking at it going, not sure about that. So even though you couldn't imagine Frank would have turned it down, but the fact that it was imploding, the fact that it was no structure, no organised plan, obviously. Lots of young players who are nowhere near reached their best. It probably needs 2 or 3 years' work. I knew why I didn't turn it down. But you're right. It absolutely has a negative impact in his standing within the management. You know, he will get other jobs, but I can't see the next one being Premier League. Just like running out of clubs, but I can't see even a sniff of a Premier League club next for Frank. I think he has to go down a level, or if he really wants to push it, he needs to go abroad and go and redo it over there the way Moyes did. We
are out of time. Our best wishes to you over the next 48 hours. You try and get through it, okay?
I'll manage it. Back to normality next week. Man United Wolves.
There you go. Great stuff. Pleasure as always. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Cheers. Pat Nevin with us on a Monday evening. Let me double check the latest from the City Ground. 4-2. 94 minutes on the clock. So you would think Nottingham Forest home and hose there. And our football coverage and Off the Ball is brought to you by Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
This is News Talk.
Dublin's electricity system needs an upgrade. The power cables are ageing and have to be replaced. That's why EirGrid, operator of the electricity grid, is powering